Yo, what's up guys? New balance patch, which is going to be the February balance patch. This is the balance patch that is going to be postponed or was postponed already to be 2 weeks later because they didn't want to do a balance patch together with the collab units out there or something like that. I actually have no clue. So does that mean we get a better balance patch, or does that mean that we're still gonna get a crappy balance patch? Let's see. Well, first of all, we're starting off with the light Gojo. Light Gojo, I just pulled it, and people normally always say, just pull a unit because then it becomes OP. No, I pull a unit to get nerfed. Well, okay, well, either. We have the increase of 20% of your attack bar on the third skill for a 10% up to 100%. So that's the maximum you can get when an ally receives a... So the 20% now becomes a 10%. Like the rest of the shit is still the same. But that is when an ally receives a harmful effect while this skill is on cooldown. Was it always an ally? I thought it was also yourself before. Wait, let's see if it was always an ally. No, it seems to be always an ally in there. So that's just the part that changed. I don't think it is a big change because in the end you need to have this skill on cooldown and you start off with an S2 into an S3. So most of the time, the moment you get this, you're already pretty far in the fight. It will be noticeable to some extent, but I don't think it will be a killer of this unit. It will still be incredibly strong and I'm still very happy with the unit. So doesn't matter. However, next off, VENDHAN. VENDHAN is already pretty hard counted by the Water Gandalf. But let's see if they do on top of that, where he's already drifting slightly out of meta with Wusu becoming strong and the Water Gandalf being really strong. Let's see what they add on top of that. So right now we have used the same skill to reduce the attack once again. Okay, additionally silencing the enemy from a 100% to a 25%. That is a huge difference. And sure, yes, you will have still 4 hits on your S2 and you have the double hit on that. So therefore, like you have the double hit and then double on double. So you have 4 hits. So you have 4 hits, 4 times 25 though, which is not that bad. But if you want to land a silence, you need like max accuracy on them right now, especially if you want to land silences on wrong element. Like before, if you were like 60-ish accuracy, 4 times 100%, 60-ish accuracy, you were still good to go. But now you really need like that 85 accuracy to actually get there. Plus, the attack by decrease goes down from a 15 to a 10, which actually does mean it goes down from a 60 to a 40. If you do like the multi-hits with all of that kind of stuff. So that's a really big decrease. And I think Fire Indra kind of got Gurkhat right there. I think he is usable-ish, but I wouldn't really recommend that. Then we have the Arcane Weapon Fire. We were kind of using it for the Fire Indra to perma push back this unit, and therefore you could 2v3 in Siege. But right now is while this mechanical state, or while you're in this mechanical state, you gain immunity against attack by decreasing effect and deal 50% extra damage, which makes him a little bit interesting, maybe as a nuker comp where we normally go for the comp with like an Ayunu and a Samath and a Perna. He could be fitting in that comp right now because he doesn't get pushed back and he can do a good bit of damage against that. So it's against like Maximilian, Neftis, those kind of siege defenses. I think he becomes pretty strong in there. Plus, we got another buff on that, is if the target has harmful effects stun for 100, and it is going to change to absorb attack bar of enemies stunned after the attack by 15%. So you're going to be adding in that stun as well. Wait, is that? It is an as is and a 2B. So are you no longer gonna stun and then you already want this when there is something stunned already? That's a little bit odd. I'm not too sure about that, but we will see that in game. I don't think it's going to be crazy good though. Also for the Dark, well, Dark has another passive. If you are below 50% HP, you can keep using this skill regardless. That's might be decent, but I'm still not really feeling it. Well, then we have a bunch of Drakan Warriors. I kind of expect the Drakan Warrior S1 to be buffed rather than these things being buffed, but let's see what we do have. So we first off start with the Water, Wind and Light, which is the S2. And that used to be a double hit. One hit is the HP recovery and the other hit is an absorb. Now we have a HP recovery and absorb on both hits, which is not that bad. So that is going to be a 30%. And that is then going to be a times 4. So technically you could absorb 120 bar on this skill, which is not a bad skill per se. The only awkward thing is for some of them it works better than for some others. So we also have the Water one. Dragon Strike is the damage increased by approximately 11%. Decrease the bar by 30 to 50. So let me actually check this unit real quick what it exactly did. So I can be checking those units over here. So that's going to be no, not Solvark. It's going to be, well, I'll just click on one and I just change it from here. Oh, it is Solvark. Can't really see from here on this screen. So Dragon Strike is this one. That's the Thundered State one. And then granting the silence. And then also decreasing the bar by 50. And that is going to be attack all enemies. Okay, so that's not that bad in combination with this. So you can absorb a lot of attack bar. Or let's say you can decrease their attack bar first. Then you can absorb more attack bar. It might be a decent unit on speed scaling, that kind of stuff. It's a little bit awkward where his attack 1 is still, or his S1 is attack scaling. But he might be an okay-ish to decent unit with those buffs. I'm not 100% sure about that. Then we have the Wind one, which also has a change of decrease the HP of the enemies with beneficial effects removed from a 30 to a 15, which is a nerf. But I can already spoil later, and probably people have seen it later already. This thing is gonna get a very simple buff with a 33 lead in speed for arena, which is a little bit awkward because this is the first element that will have two 33 leads. Both Oliver and this thing will be the 33 lead. However, the skill set on this unit, like sure, this skill is buffed to be absorbing 30% at max, and then also having the heal block in there. This skill is okay, but he becomes a little bit weird. Like, I'm not too sure how crazy he will be. He's seated at a 101 base with, yeah, over here, 101 base, pretty high defense. It makes him a defense scaler on both S2 and S3, which I am not too sure if this is really a crazy good unit, if he becomes super meta, or that he's just like, yeah, I don't know that much if he's going to become that interesting. I'm not really feeling it, because would I put this unit on Swift? Maybe. As a late pick, I would maybe put him on Swift. But if you want to pick him early, then he's a fire unit. But a fire unit on 101 base, to be stripping your things, then a more or something does do a lot more. So that's kind of, I'm in the midst if I'm really going to be liking this unit, but guess we'll have to figure out when the season actually runs in for a longer time. And we also have the light one, which also does have the same S2, and now it also has a grants the same harmful effects, including inabilities, reflect the harmful effect to the caster and recover your HP by from a 5 to a 10%. Makes him a very good siege tank. Like siege tanking, definitely. RTA in the right comp, he might be pretty annoying as well, that he cannot be killed towards the end of the fight. And then he just starts being annoying for absorbing attack bar, still a death break on the S1. It's kind of too bad that their S1 isn't defense scaling. If they were full defense scaling, their S1 could actually do a potential really big damage hit because of simply having death scaling, death breaks, and that kind of good stuff. Twin Angels making a bit of a comeback. So we have more consistency on their skill. So Focus Shot is now going for a each hit decreases from 30 to a 50%. We still have that earlier nerf on, what's it called? Wait, let's just go for Twin Angels. That's easy to find that way. I think they're called Rommel, and Rom would have been fine, but apparently was more scrolling down. So it is going to be this skill. So that is going to be, wait, does it actually have the effect up in here? Does it show in that? Because this one is showing recovery plus. So it's not adding in cooldown, it seems. That is interesting. Not sure. I thought there was actually extra effect rate on this skill as well. But now I'm not 100% sure. Maybe these things are kind of like off key where they're supposed to be, or it's just the recovery. But well, now 3 times hit 50% is not bad numbers. 3 times hit on a 30% was pretty bad numbers in all honesty. Then we also have the charge shot from Wind, which is going to be decreasing the slow from a 60 to an 80. I think that makes it an all the way 100, if I'm not mistaken on that. This one, does it go up for? No, it actually doesn't go up. Wow, surprised about that. So you still have the activation rate on the 60%, I think, for the S2. But the S3 on both of them is quite a bit better right now. Then we also have the Dark one, which I assume is also the S3. And it is now a harmful effect on the ally and grants an instant turn, which is better than 100 bar if something is at 0 attack bar. Otherwise, something that is at the 110 attack bar might actually already be better. Then we have the Wind Hwaring, which is the high multi-hitter with like the 6 times multi-hit. Now the last hits grants a silence. Didn't do jack shit before, it's now still doing jack shit. I don't really think that changes anything. It does kind of change-ish for the fact that he cannot be countered, and then it's another thing on top of it, but I don't really think it's the right thing on top of it. Then we have the Paul Phoenix, which actually the fire one is already used quite a bit, especially in combination with Wusas, in combinations with Shihos, in combinations with Shinzes. So it's definitely not a bad unit altogether. So the first hit, granting irresistible for 2 turns, is going from a 30 to a 50, which is definitely not bad number. So let me actually check. Does it go up in the activation rate in the S2? It does actually go up. So it was already a 50 towards a, or like a 30 towards a 50. So it's going to be 50 towards a 70, which is definitely not bad numbers. The chance of the stun is going to be 70 as well. So it's going to be 70 into 70. But the thing is, if you land this part, then the odds of landing this is a lot higher as well. So that's kind of a nice thing out there. So that's decent buff for all of them. I'm not too sure if it's going to make Wind and Light viable. Light is the one that is the 28 lead on Siege. But the Fire one is definitely going to be a lot better on that. We also have the Fire Jin Kazama, pretty annoying unit in Siege defense. I think I have to be pulling mine from one of the Ancient Transcendent Scrolls because I still have that one. I'm missing 5 units. He's one of them. And he's actually pretty busted and annoying for all of that stuff. And he's going to be higher chance on his strip. So he's going to be more likely to be interrupting the enemy, having a chance to despair stun, and doing all of that kind of good stuff. So he doesn't change anything in the rate in the skill ups, but he's going to be having a higher rate in it itself. So that's pretty decent. Then we also have the Wind one, which I actually personally expected to get the 28 lead for the specific element while being a collab unit, so therefore 28 speed lead. But no, actually not. Additional damage is proportional to your attack power. Difference increased by 80%. I'm not sure if this part was already in there or that's a completely different added part. So attack 5 times, each hit for 2 turn oblivion, decrease the attack power, deals additional damage between your attack and that. So I'm not sure if that is because the 80% was never really mentioned. It was 80, so I'm not sure if that's an increase, decrease, or a bit of both. That's probably not going to happen, but you know what I mean. I have no clue which which circle we're going on for that skill. But we are now lowered on cooldowns, and the cooldown lowering still goes 1 down after that. So we're on a 3-turn cooldown, which is pretty short for a hit like this. But I'm not sure, once again, if that is extra damage, less damage, or I have no freaking clue. But this thing, if he gets a speed lead right now, rather than this lead, if he gets 28 speed lead, but then it's another Wind with a speed lead, so it's kind of awkward, then he would be good. But right now, I don't really feel him altogether still. Then we have a whole bunch of stuff about the Tanjiros. So let's see. So first Tanjiro is, we have the attacks the enemy to block them from receiving beneficial effects with a 30 chance, but we're going to change that to a glancing with a 50 chance. I am not too sure about that and which one is getting most value out of that, because I do know the light one is pretty solid, mainly if you pair it with an attack buffer, but I'm not too sure about that. So effective rate still goes up by a 20, so it was 50 already, so the 50 will become a 70. But at glancing it is not bad, but it's also not crazy good. So we have this one is decrease the attack bar reduction by the amount of hit by 50%. Okay. So and now you're doing your attacks won't glance on fire. So you're not getting that attack bar reduce anymore, it seems. And that is going to be for your S3. Or wait, this part is probably not, like it's just this skill. So the absorb, I'm not really sure if that adds anything to the unit. Let me close this tab because I'm every time tabbing the wrong tab. But yeah, I'm not sure if that adds anything. Then we have the Wind one, which is Wall of Text. Yay, Wall of Text is a Wind one. Attacks all enemies, goes on the threat state while the enemy attacks with single target hit 3 times. Okay, grants immunity to yourself for 1 turn. Additionally, increase your attack power for 1 turn. When attacked with, when he's on cooldown. Okay, so yeah, sure. You get those kind of things. What do we have instead right now? Attack all enemies, grant yourself attack speed. Okay, and immunity for 2 turns. So that is the thing which used to be getting an attack buff. Or no, wait, the threat state part is gone. Am I looking at the right unit? I am looking at the right unit. So no longer threat state, which makes sense. You're an attacker unit. Why the hell would you threat state yourself? But attack speed, immunity for 2 turns. Additionally, increase your attack bar by 50 when attacked when the enemy, when this skill's on cooldown. Okay, so... okay, not sure about the attack speed though. Attack buff would have made a lot more sense because attack buff would lead into you doing more on the ignored defense and you're not speed scaling at all. So this, if it was attack buff, I would have said cool. Now it's kind of weird. So not really feeling that unit. Let's move on to Inosuke. So we have the Inosuke Fire. I think that is one of the most useless units in game. Let's see if he becomes a little bit less useless. So what do we have on this thing over here right now? Decreases your chance of being hit by a harmful effect by 35%. Decreases the duration of harmful effects to 1 turn. This effect does not add up. Okay, and during the harmful effects, this does not fall below 1 turn. Sure, additionally recover your HP by 15% whenever it's... Sure, kind of a half-ass baked Nyx passive, but then kind of bad. We changed that to a 50. Okay, is that the only change there is? And the decreases this, yeah, and this effect is not okay. If you're granted by 1, then no, wait, this part is added as well. Decreases the damage taken and increase the damage dealt. So that is the part we have added, and then still you have the healing of same. So, okay, if you're granted with 1 or no harmful effects, but if you're granted with 2, it doesn't count. A little bit weird, but sure, the no part kind of makes sense and you have less chance of getting that. But then again, what is your S1 and S2? Text all enemies to deserve their HP recovery, okay, and then increase your current HP ratio. Has a shit skill, and skill 1 is also shit skill. So, and then you have a passive that's kind of mediocre, so cool change, doesn't change anything. Nice. And moving on to the wind. Wind is a damage increase. Loki, don't even know what the wind does. Isn't the wind a 4-star? That's a 4-star. No one cares in the first place. Oh, that's the one with the that cannot be revived in battle. So maybe for, well, 13%. No one cares about that one, to be honest. Wind Geralt removes 1 beneficial effect from 15 to a 50. I thought that was going to be in the passive or something because I don't know the skills on the shitty unit. But that's apparently in the skill 1. So, who gives a damn? And this is the awakening. This is where he awakens into for the skill 1 to strip more. That's... Sure. We don't care. And then we have the same thing on the dark. So the dark one gets another buff. But, yeah. He increases the duration of harmful effects by a 15 chance right now. He becomes a kind of a decent unit to lock something down because this gives you a chance to extend stuns and those kind of things, but it's on the skill 1, so no one really gives a shit, I would say. Moving on next, Carlos. Whereas Valeska owners weren't already very happy that they can put their LD in the very first slot in RTA, and most of the Valeska owners actually do, we now also add a buff on top of that, I guess. So Carlos is remove inability effects on yourself whenever an ally or an enemy dies. So if you're stunning the Carlos, Carlos would cleanse out the moment you kill something. So it's hard countering Gianna's, it's hard countering any kind of despair stuns. That is a pretty nasty combo for Valeska, which in my opinion is kind of odd. Valeska was already arguably the strongest LD if you don't have other LDs to pair it with. And also the strongest LD, which needs the lowest rune requirement. So Valeska is going to be probably like 55 to 56 win rate in lower ranks, which is just kind of stupid. It was already like 53, 54. So yeah, sure, makes a lot of sense. No. Moving on next, Bastet. Bastet is going to be a stronger on the attack bar increase. And also the shield. I thought the shield of Bastet was already pretty solid, but 42% on the shield. That's a massive and a half shield right there. But also the extra attack bar does help out for the teams where you go for a... Personally, I only use Bastet with the Dark Cassandra Bastet plus another nuker. But it's also solid for the Kabila Bastet. And then you go for like a Samath plus an Alicia or whatever you want to clear with that. But there's a few options out there, which is not too bad. Then we have Hathor. Didn't Josu on the podcast say that he wanted to bring back Gany Hathor? Well, fuck that shit. Why do we have a freaking Hathor buff? What the fuck is even that? Resets the attack bar and increases the cooldown by 1 turn. That was before. Now we give Oblivion for 1 turn. I'm not sure which one of the two is better. Probably Oblivion because you don't actually hit the unit. So you can't land that on a Juno or anything like that. So yeah, you can land this on fire, which makes it maybe a little bit interesting. Then we have Zen, the Shadowcaster on Wind. Chaos Fanatic or Fanatic Chaos, which is removes all values, okay, or removes all beneficial effects, excluding bosses. Yeah, grants 1 to 2 and is 1 to 3. More RNG. Yeah, not too bad, but a little bit too much RNG for me. If it was a 1 to 2 and then going towards a 2 to 3, I would have been happy, but 1 to 3 is still like whatever. It's a little bit better, but maybe just a siege defense unit, and even there I think like not that great. Hellfire is going to go from the shield from 50 to a shield of 100. I don't think that changes all too much. Sure, it's a nasty shield, it's harder to break it, but you can still strip it. Plus, if you actually miss your death break or you miss the strip and you didn't do jack shit of damage, you're not gonna have that much of a shield anyways. So that. Then, Ganymede also buffed, same with Hathor buff. Okay. So you used to be dealing damage proportion to your attack. Now it's going to be HP and attack, which it really depends how much this is. Like if he actually gets like a solid HP multiplier on this and he's gonna do a lot of damage on a death break, let's say a good 20 or 25k, if he's on a crit rate 4 with some crit damage artifacts or anything like that, he could be pretty nasty, but let's see. We also have Charlotte with the skill 3 going from a 30 to a 40%. That is a pretty loaded unit right now because you also have the pushback on that skill, right? I'm pretty sure it is, hits 3 times. You gain the bar on your things and then also you decrease their bar. That's a lot of... And then you also have glancing. That's a lot of things going on for one skill. So you pretty much hardcore boost your own team, while hardcore like lowering their team, plus putting glancing, plus having the S1 which can cycle, plus having a decent S2. So that's might be that Charlotte makes a little bit of a comeback, maybe even as a swift unit in this case, because 40 bar is a lot of bar. Moving on next, we have the Tarian, which is going to be dealing more damage for enemies with a harmful effect. So it makes a little bit more of a threat in siege, I would say. We have Sage, which is the Pioneers, which is in this case the Pungbig. The damage dealt from 50 to 75 initial damage, and then we no longer do this increase by 50% if the target dies on the first hit. So technically, we always have this, and then this part is removed. That's just the main thing. So you no longer have to kill, but the damage output is the same, I guess. We got a Nigong buff. It used to be decreasing the damage on other allies. I think they're just giving Nigong a buff because the water, or like the light Gandalf is it's pretty much Nigong, but as a passive. So they want to give Nigong a little bit extra, but now all allies. So it includes himself, but he still needs to get this skill on cooldown to actually get that thing rolling, which I don't really think is much of a buff in the first place. I barely think he will be changed. Then we have a Jaeger buff, which the counter goes to a 50. That is actually pretty darn strong. I'm not gonna lie, because we're definitely going in towards a turn 2 heavy bruiser meta. And I think Jaeger's gonna be very strong with that, because Angela's strong right now. You definitely have the Water Gandalf being super strong. Jaeger does actually fit in pretty well, especially if he counters more, because if he counters more, he threat states more. And that is mainly the nasty thing on him. If he gets more threat states off, he is actually very solid. So I definitely do think he really fits in the whole bruiser meta with Shihos, Shinzes, Megumis, all of that kind of stuff. I think this Jaeger buff might be actually pretty legit. We also have a Celia buff, and that is just adding in more bar for the targets that have their beneficial effects successfully removed. It's still lacking a little bit on the base speed, but then again, if you were to increase the base speed, then you also have to increase the base speed of the Viva Gel, which it would be way too strong. So in that case, they can't really do that stuff and they don't expect it to happen, but it's a decent-ish buff, I guess, but it's nothing too crazy. We have a Leona buff, arguably one of the weakest units in game, but we have a damage increase from a 30 to a 50% the moment you have a shield. Doesn't do jack shit, to be honest. Like, you just have too much issues of being countered by ignored defenses, getting a death break in, getting all kinds of, just even additional damage artifacts really mess you up. So I don't think Leona is that much played. Then we have a bunch of weird net 4s. We have a Gildong buff where now after the attack of your S3, which is kind of like a Shio hit if I'm not mistaken. Gildong. It is a multi-hit that death breaks, right? Yeah, it strips death breaks, and now it strips death breaks and boosts your attack bar, which is, in all honesty, not that bad of a hit. It's definitely kind of adds up. But the attack bar gain, it is a little bit weird though. But we also have an S2 buff that now has a decreased speed from 30% chance to a 50% chance. Does that go up more in rate? Yeah, that will be a 70% after these numbers being added to that. Still a little bit weird. And then we also have the attack bar decrease for fire, wind, and light. on the S2, and that's gonna go with a 50% chance. Which I would say that this guy over here, Wuchi, would become very good for TOA because he has more attack bar decrease over here. Plus, he decreases your cooldown of your allies. So therefore, I would say that he becomes pretty good for the TOA, like the special TOA kind of things. Like TOA normal hard, we don't really care. But for the other things, he might be kind of interesting because of more bar push on that kind of sense. We also have Molly getting more damage reduction, so it becomes more of a light tank for siege. If you're having a dark enemy that might mess you up real bad, it kind of adds in there. We got a beta buff on the Serenity, which is the part that gives you immunity, I'm pretty sure. And is that also the revive then? No, wait, the revive is the S2, the Serenity is the immunity. Yep, healing and immunity, and then also reducing the crit chance. It used to be a very long cooldown, so 5, and that's gonna go down to a 4. So you have still 2 turns off immunity, 2 turns on immunity, but it's better than it used to be. All Cobalt bombers. We have that the third hit installs a bomb that detonates after 2 turns with a 25% chance. That is just on the third hit. That's so freaking RNG. Get that shit out of here, to be honest. Then we have the water, wind, and light, and we get more bar for each bomb that you install right now. Still 15 doesn't really give you full bar, so it doesn't really make you rotate too much. I don't really see the value of that too much. And then we have the fire and the dark one, which is the continuous damage inflict from a 25 to a 35% chance. But that is a higher multi-hit already, so it's a little bit weird as well. I'm really not feeling any of those net 4 changes all too much. Maybe outside of the beta and the Molly, I can kind of see those going, but the other net 4 changes doesn't really change anything to siege that much, I think. So then we have a few leader changes. So we have the light one actually goes to HP lead, which kind of makes it a potential for a Leo kind of style arena defense, which is not too bad. I would use this, like, if you don't have any other options. Placing this with a Leo in your arena defense, I can definitely see that work. And of course, we have the speed lead going on the Drakan Warrior Wind, which I'm still not really sold on if that's going to be a good unit. Like, of course, people are going to be like, 33 lead, it's freaking OP. Yeah, but you also have Samantha's 33 lead, and sure, it's used from time to time, but it's not really crazy good. Yeah, Trinity is a 33 lead, and sure, it's used from time to time, but it's not crazy good. It's not that like, oh, 33 lead equals to crazy good unit. No, not really. Is it usable? Yeah, definitely. Is he going to be meta? I think he's going to be more of a late pick. I don't really think people are going to go for too much of an early pick on him. Maybe so, but he kind of needs Vio, and he kind of needs to have your fastest set. Otherwise, he's not just outspeeding anything on a one-on-one pace, which I'm not too sure. We'll definitely give him a try, but we shall see if he's actually good. Then we have a few changes to, we have a change to a Awakening, which is the Accuracy Awakening going into Crit Awakening for the Wind Tanjiro. I think all of these Tanjiros are still kind of ass. And that's it, which is actually very mediocre. Like, where are siege changes? Where are PvE changes? Where are anything? Like, I feel like it's really mediocre. And then we have a bunch of these things, which I think that, used to be Dragon Strike, it's now Dragon Slash. Who cares? Fine. Like, I don't know. Also a bunch of fixes. Yeah, I feel it's kind of lackluster for a balance patch. Like, to be honest, I was not expecting a good balance patch, because we just put really low expectations in Counters because they're just really good and messing up if you have high expectations. But I was expecting at least a 5 out of 10 balance patch. I would give this a 2.5 to a 3 out of 10 balance patch. Because, sure, like, I'm not saying that because of the Gojo. Like, the Gojo, to be honest, I don't care that much. The Indra nerf is a little bit too Gurkha style. Like, it's just like, chop it. Then the Drakan Warrior improvements are kind of okay-ish, but I'm not really feeling that too much. Twin Angels changes are also a bit like, yeah, maybe. Buffing a Fire Paul while he's already super meta is a little bit cringe as well. Buffing a Fire Jin while it's a super annoying unit is a little bit cringe. Buffing on all of the Tanjiros, which I'm still not really feeling them to do anything, is a little bit lame as well. Same for the Inosuke, they still look pretty ass. Buffing S1s on the Geralts is also not really interesting. Buffing a Valeska team that is already really crazy good to be even stronger is kind of stupid, straight up. Buffing Hathor is very high stupid. Buff on the Bastet is okay, I guess. This buff doesn't really change it. This buff doesn't really change it. Ganymede buff is making him a little bit more usable, but also kind of weird. I don't know. These two buffs, sure, I guess. Buff on the Leona is pretty much ass. Jagger, I guess, is the balance patch winner in my opinion. Nigong buff is still straight up ass. It barely changes anything. Then we have the Nets Force, and they're also kind of ass. I think I'm being generous with a 3 out of 10 balance patch right here. I lower that to a 2.5 out of 10 balance patch. Come to us once again fucked up on your balance patch. No, well... yeah, no, that's the honest answer. Like, this took you, it's like, oh guys, let's postpone it for 2 weeks to fuck it up still. Like, when will you guys learn? Like, you had one good balance patch with the previous one. You made people happy on that shit. You kind of like, hey, so this is the cooking recipe where people get happy of. What was this fucking throw that away? Guys, we start a new one, we're gonna mess it up again. Like, I don't get it, how these guys get to that, man. Like, I don't know. Like, there's so many more things you could have done for Siege. You could have changed a few leads in Siege. You could have added something that makes sense. Wind doesn't have a 28 lead yet. Light doesn't have a 28 lead yet. Let's add in another 33 lead on a unit that's completely ass in the first place. Yeah. Let's do some PvE changes. Let's make Sakuna viable for Temple of Chaos for the people that don't have a Drakan Warrior or something. I don't know, do something. Like, no, let's do absolute jack shite because we just added new collab, new packs, guys. Good luck, keep going. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know what these guys are thinking, but yeah. Also, this will be probably the last balance patch in a while that could potentially be good, because now we're entering into SWC season. Next time we have a balance patch, probably close to a Siege tournament or close to an RTA tournament of any kind of shape or way, which does really mean that I would say meta's kind of set in stone. We're hardcore bruisering. We're playing Shinzas. We're playing Shihos. We're playing Megumis. No Megumi nerf. No Josephine nerf. Josephine is going to be meta. Yeah, it's pretty much just going to be stunners against Josephine. And then add in a freaking Water Gandalf. And then on the other side you add in a Bolvric. That's going to be meta. Is what it is. I was enjoying the VENDHAN meta a little bit more in my personal opinion. But... let's just hard chop that because people complained about it. I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think about this balance patch. And yeah, that's about it. Guys, thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you as always in the next one.